API is completely platform agnostic as long as you've got a platform that can connect to the internet and use XML, you're fine. But if you are developing code for some of the platforms that we have these frameworks for, they'll make your life a lot easier. So I'm actually going to step through and throw some code up on the screen, and you'll see how to do stuff in XML, what the URLs are. And then we have some wrappers in Objective-C for Mac and iOS and for PHP that make the code a little bit more accessible. So, for example, this is the Objective-C framework. It's exactly the same framework that goes into a Mac or an iOS app. So if you develop for iOS, you have to use a Mac. So one thing you can do is you can start by doing an app on your Mac, do some rapid prototyping to get the code pathways and the algorithms worked out. And then you can very easily port that to iOS. It's really just a very straightforward thing. All the language is the same, the code's the same, the framework's the same, etc. So just as an example here, you can get a list of the channels. You can get information about one channel. You can get information about, you can search for shows by name. You can get the episodes for a show. You can get the schedules for a channel. And these are all things that are part of the API that this framework kind of wraps around, so you have an easy Objective-C interface for calling those. Similarly, on the web, here's an example of a PHP file that just does some stuff using the API, and you see it's, I'll just walk you through it real fast, and you'll see that what it's doing is really pretty straightforward. So I just get the default device for my household. Most households only have one set-top box, so that gets the set-top box device. I can subscribe to receive notifications. So if someone changes channel with remote control, I'll get a little JavaScript callback that says, hey, the channel's changed. And I'll cover how to do that. I can get the contacts to see what they're watching now. I can get a list of all the channels on their TV platform. I can get the picture for each channel, etc. So that's all documented. I'm actually really not going to go through every single thing that the API can do and every single feature of the frameworks, but I'm going to point you to where the documentation is and just give you some highlights here so you get a flavor of how it works. And then if you have more specific questions, you can come to us and ask us what's going on. There's some sample apps that are on the website that you can download and compile or put on your web server so you can test them out and see how they work. And these are designed to be simple use cases, so they're short and easy to understand. For example, this iZapper app just lists a couple channels. It's just a very simple iPhone app. It lists the channels with the name and the icon. It selects the channel that the user is currently watching. If you tap a channel, it'll change channel on the TV. And if the user changes channel on the TV with the remote control, then it will highlight the channel that they've changed to. So it's a pretty simple app. It's doing some complicated things. All apps have to use authentication to get access to the system, and I'll cover how that works. And the best apps use the notification system to receive updates from the TV automatically, and this does that as well. I'd say the framework is maybe a couple thousand lines of code, but the source code for this application is 30 or 40 lines of code. So using the framework makes it really easy to get started with an app very quickly because some of the more complicated aspects, especially the authentication and the notifications, are really wrapped up for you. Just getting the channel list, that's easy enough to do even without these wrappers, but to just do everything all in one place, the frameworks make that pretty easy. And just what I try to do is to have the same apps both on iOS and on the web, just to show that when we're using a different language, a different deployment paradigm, the concepts are the same, and then you can use the same API calls, just as a wrapper. So here's a web browser. This is running in Safari on the Mac, and you'll see that it's actually designed to look just the same as the other app. It does exactly the same thing. It uses our web framework instead of the iOS framework, but the things it does are exactly the same. It works exactly the same.
Question. You use the same API, just a different wrapper for the exact same web and mobile?
Yeah, I'm doing the same things because the SDP APIs, I'm not talking about what platform, just in general. I get the channel list, I get which channel the user is currently watching, I allow them to change channels by tapping, and I highlight the channel that I receive a notification when the viewer changes channel. Those are things that you can do regardless of what platform you're on. So if you want to do this on Windows, we don't have Windows sample code for you, but you could call the same SDP APIs and do the same things. In this case, we're using a wrapper to do that just to make it a bit simpler, because we've solved some of the problems for you. But if you only read the low-level documentation, you can do the same things on any platform, on game consoles, on Windows, on the Amiga, on whatever you've got that has internet access. We have an app that runs on the Mac that is designed to call every API that the SDP offers. So the little Zapper apps just call a few APIs. This is designed to call all of them, and they're all in the menu, and you can get at them by clicking buttons and such. And that's useful for understanding everything that the API can do. If you don't have a Mac, we've ported exactly the same thing to the web. So you see you've got the same list of options in the toolbar here. You can browse through devices, channels, schedules, content, people, get the current context, etc. So you see that you've got the same toolbar right here, more or less. So you can call everything the API can do. Heads Up is an app that that I showed yesterday during the demo, but that's also available on the it's part of the sample code. You can download that. If you click on the channel listing here, you get a popover that works exactly the same as the iZapper app. So it's got a list of channels. So it's got all that functionality plus a bit more. For the current show, it just takes the title, in this case Days of Our Lives, and then it uses Google basically to figure out what's the homepage for that show, and then it shows it to you in a web view. And you can also tap on these other websites. So for example, if you tap on Wikipedia, then it'll search Wikipedia for Days of Our Lives instead of searching Google. So pretty clear what that does? So you can try that and get a flavor for, once you understand how the iZapper app works, you can try that and then do something a little bit more, it's incrementally more complicated. It's still a very simple app. Code's not very long, but it illustrates the use cases. Basically, our marketing people said, we want an app that works with Facebook and IMDb and Wikipedia and Twitter and YouTube. And I said, just make me a list. And so I put the list here, and this app works with all of those things. Relatively trivial way, but it illustrates the use cases of how you can integrate with those apps.
So what is the integration
Those websites.
with like Facebook and Twitter? What does it actually do?
Yeah, what is it?
Okay, in this case, this app just searches Google for Days of Our Life Facebook, and it goes to that page, which is probably the Facebook page for Days of Our Lives. It's really, really low intelligence, but high payoff. Now, since I've written that, the API actually has some new features where if you get the full content listing for a show like Days of Our Lives, we now include the ID of the Facebook page, and we include the Twitter hashtag. So if I was running this app now, instead of using Google to just do an I'm feeling lucky search, what I could actually do is I could actually take the URL to the Facebook page right out of the content info and go straight to that. So that's an example of how we integrate with the social media. We don't